bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. This time we we the fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This time we the fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. This time we the fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This time we the fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. Them country bad.
This only news review talk show right here, the XTV, behind the zinc fence, Belize, sweet Southside Belize City. I'm Sister Yaya Marin Coleman, producer of Sunday Review with the slogan Making Sense of the News. We co-host revolutionary from out of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Brother Akamototai. Bring one a country brother with time, Brother Imo Bakari. Welcome, brothers.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sister Yaya. Good morning to our listening audience. It's once again a pleasure to be on Sunday Review.
Morning, Brother Imo. How the morning?
Good, man. Happy to be alive.
Give thanks. It's the first time. Thanks for coming at such short notice when other scheduled guests couldn't make it. First time to meet Brother Imo, so you're new to we. So tell me whatever you want to know about yourself before we get into the Caribbean news analysis, because we don't know you. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a citizen of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I have been involved in community activities. I'm a little boy, a grown man. I am also involved in the educational sector as a psychology lecturer at the University of the Southern Caribbean. I'm a researcher, a writer, and a concerned citizen of the world.
Good. Once Brother Akko says, you could come, you're sealed. Brother Akko, now tell me you got stories from Cuba, Guyana, Venezuela, Barbados, Bermuda, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Jamaica. Now, I don't know how much of them I get you, but start, Brother Akko.
So the first piece I want to look at this morning is out of Antigua. And I think it's a very important piece of news given what is happening in the Caribbean health-wise. And the headline is called Junk Food Marketing Needs the Same Scrutiny as Tobacco. So I read a couple of paragraphs and have Brother Imo give his opinion on it. The article begins, junk food is conditioning children from a young age in ways society would never tolerate with tobacco or alcohol. A youth advocate with Healthy Caribbean Youth said preschools already restrict sugary snacks and drinks, but that standard disappears once children reach primary school. Preschool sets a foundation for young people. Now, going into primary school, unfortunately, this is where we drop the ball. We allow outside influences because we must understand that conditioning is an important factor for our young people. The advocate said easy access to unhealthy snacks around schools has left children so conditioned to sugar that they associate break time with junk food rather than nourishment. When you check what they're really eating, for them, break, it's not them having a sandwich or something wholesome to hold them until lunch. She further stated the break is corn curls, a soda, and some fried chicken. Chews with sweets. Literally almost anything unhealthy you can think of, the access is there. So they have been conditioned and society has made it okay for this. Healthy Caribbean Coalition Communications Officer Sheena Edwards, said the region has restricted marketing of harmful products before, and school policy should follow the same path. So I will end here. I think that kind of covers the gist of the article, which is it's a problem in the Caribbean, and it is you're seeing it in the health indicators of our young people, and even as they grow older, you are seeing this sort of health problem. So I don't know whether Imo want to respond or make a comment on that particular article.
Well, pleasant good day to listeners and viewers, and my pleasure to be here on this program. In response to that, we have throughout the Caribbean, we have children, showing up with chronic conditions, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and certainly we could establish a link with the kind of foods that they eat, and I know the former Minister of Health in Trinidad, they did implement a policy to ban these kind of sugary stuff in the school system. Food is a tool of control, and if governments don't have the strength to really, set their policies and put on their feet, you find that, for example, a colleague of mine, a medical doctor, he said that they did a study at one time where they were looking at criminals and they did a adjustment in their diets, and there was a significant decline in their attitude, their level of aggression, etc., and a drop. Now, this is just one study, so we don't want to generalize, but they was able to establish a link with food and criminality. So too with the kind of food that we eat and our health, we in the Caribbean have been blessed with a lot of, natural foods. And those of us who grew up on that, we could look back and say for a fact that the mangoes, the plums, the pomerancs, the pomsite, regular play, regular exercise, certainly has served us in good stead. Because when you have, children under 20 years, in primary school showing up with these conditions, we certainly could see that, the food is a dangerous tool in keeping them, in an unhealthy state. And if those in power could keep our people in an unhealthy state, it makes it easier for them to exercise control in terms of the direction of the society. Because as a friend told me the other day, a medical doctor also, it's better that you are poor and healthy than wealthy and unhealthy, So preserving our health is important in terms of contributing meaningfully to national development. And if we are damaging our children from a young age, we are kind of holding back the wheels of development in terms of the kind of contribution that they can make to society.
I agree with Tono. But we also have to admit that the palate get influenced from the people that were raised with. So if you come out of a household with a plant base and you go to school, I mean you might be tempted, but based on your knowledge, so even though I agree, bottom line, it come down to the state and their policies, and unique to just Antigua, that like when I said throughout the Caribbean, how much influence do people really have on policymakers? Because it never always stay like this. When we made a grow up, we never have this amount of junk food. Even when the children at home, then they eat a lot of junk food and access to North America, the media. So how much power people actually have for make one difference, brother Akwa and brother Imo?
Well, Sister Yaya, you made a point that based on the household you grew up in, it could have an impact on you. And yes, that is true. But you also have to understand social pressures and how these things help to shape. And I'll give you my own experience as a child. When I grew up in a rural community with we were eating cassava. We used to make something called soak farine, which is when you make farine. I think you have farine in Belize too, right? And they will soak the farine and it becomes like a gooey stuff. And to put some fish on that, or so in the countryside, that was a meal. You grew up eating that. We'd have what we call bake, which is flatbread, and so on. Now, so I'm from the rural community. So I go to high school, secondary school, first in the family. So I go to secondary school. When you go there now, and I tell you this story because it's a story of of a lot of young people. So you go to school, and when you go to school, you see all these children with a nice fancy sandwich with usually yellow stuff inside, and you don't know what the hell that is, but you believe it's better than yours. And then you have a little talk shop. You go there and you're buying sandwiches and so on. So now I'm looking at this now, and I have which nobody else in the class. So you know that's country food. So I develop a kind of inferiority complex, right? So guess what I started to do? I started to throw away the food and go in the talk shop. Now, and I'll give you the other side of the story. So years later now, I am employed as a I used to throw the food over the banister. So years later, as a young apprentice, I'm in the oil field. The first year you go in there, they give you a free meal, free lunch, free snacks. So you get something at 9:30 and you get something at 12. So you get accustomed to 2 meals. The second year, that is cut off. So now, as a young man, you have a problem of managing your money. So sometimes, on by Thursday, my money is finished. I don't have money to, because you're not managing the money properly. And but you have to go to work because pay is Friday. And I would go to work sometimes so hungry that I used to dream of that food that I threw away when I was in high school. I used to dream, so the point I'm trying to make is how we are influenced by cultural and social factors. I learned after that never to throw food away again. And I don't throw food away, right? So, yes, you have people trying to raise children to eat the right thing, but you have social pressures in the society and elsewhere in the institutions and so on that you operate in that impacts your responses and your behavior. And that is a cultural problem and a sociological problem that we need to address in the country. We have to learn to value what is ours, and in too many instances, we do not value what is ours. We are ashamed sometimes of what is ours.
Any solutions, Brother Emo?
Well, dealing with the young in terms of what they would like to see later on is an important thing, And earlier on you mentioned about parents in the home, but if parents in the home don't have that consciousness and understanding in terms of the kind of what it should do and what it can do for the development of their children. And some of those situations because of the situation there, the economic situation, they may not be able to buy the things that they need. But nonetheless, people in the past might not have been wealthy, but they had access to food, natural foods that were good. So families could take the initiative in terms of trying to orient their children to eat properly. That is at one level, right? The school could play a part, and the media, which is a powerful arm of influence, both social and traditional, will need to drive an agenda to promote that. However, people who are wealthy and making money off of the bad food, they don't let up with their advertising. But we could counteract it by making a conscious effort. But we need to get people willing to make that effort. So teachers, administrators, homes, sporting organizations, because you have people even involved in sports sometimes who do not eat properly, So we need to create a new culture which will take constant effort, constant promotion of the right thing, and wherever we are, promoting the message and encouraging the right kind of action. It obviously it'll be something over time because the impact of the bad food is so strong now that there's a lot of work to overturn it, and they're not letting up in terms of the advertising to keep people hooked. And then the ingredients in the food, people become addicted to it. The brain's reward center look forward to it. So hence the reason, KFC, which is, unhealthy, but people are strong into the KFC because there's a certain psychological connection with it in terms of taste, in terms of the addiction, etc., that people will still go for those types of food.
Respect, and then remember, so the healthcare system is based on people being sick
Of
and
course,
make money. So
of course.
even though Belize don't have none of the big like US based food franchise,
Mm.
they had KFC I think 1 year and that gone out of business.
All right, all
Besides
right,
having a small population, but they're addicted to the Chinese man food, fried chicken. Oh yes.
right,
The Mennonite then they make a lot of money. They're the biggest produce suppliers of chicken in Belize. Next
right.
door, brother Aka, big thanks.
The next story is also related to food, but it's a different perspective, and it comes from Tricontinental. And because what it is showing in this article here is the policy internationally to create foods that is harmful to children and to the world. So let me read it. And the headline is How the Global Food Economy is Killing Children. Okay? And so it begins on 4th of June 2026. The World Health Organization released a devastating assessment of the state of the world's food systems. According to the new estimates, which draw on data up to 2021, unsafe food causes approximately 866 million illnesses and 1.5 million deaths every year. Nearly 1 in 9 people globally falls ill from contaminated food, with the African and Southeast Asian regions together accounting for nearly 3/4 of all foodborne illnesses and 60% of global deaths. The burden falls most heavily on those who have contributed least to the crisis, children. Young children face almost 3 times the risk of illness from unsafe food compared to older children and adults. Despite making up 9% of the global population, children under the age of 5 suffer nearly 1/3 of all cases of foodborne diseases. In 2021, unsafe food killed 143,000 of them. These are not mere statistics. They represent lives cut short by preventable diseases, families pushed into grief, and societies deprived of the future embodied in their youngest members. The conventional response to such things is technical. We are told that food safety is a matter of better inspection, stronger regulation, improved hygiene, and effective monitoring. These measures are important and necessary, yet they do not explain why hundreds of millions of people continue to consume unsafe food despite decades of accumulated knowledge on how to prevent contamination. To understand the persistence of foodborne disease, we must move beyond technical explanations and examine the structure of the global food system. The dominant food system is organized around the pursuit of profit, not the right to food. Across much of the world, food production has been transformed into a highly concentrated industry dominated by large agribusiness, corporations, supermarket chains, food processors, logistic companies, and financial system. This and financial institutions. This system, which primarily seeks to maximize returns on investment, generates contradictions that directly affect food safety in at least 3 key ways. I will stop here and I will just make one brief comment before I turn it over to Brother Imo. In the Caribbean, we have been systematically encouraged, right, to deindustrialize relative to agriculture, right? We have become dependent on foreign supplies for our food. I remember in Trinidad a few years ago, there was an attempt, there was a discussion in which people were pressing the government to redevelop our agricultural sector. And the minister at the time of agriculture, he said, yes, we could do that, but I can't tell you certain things because of the agreements we signed internationally with the Food and Agricultural Organization and so on. So we signed these things to the detriment of our society, compromise our food sovereignty, compromise our independence, and in the process, compromise our health. So what we have in the Caribbean in many instances is expired food or foods that are about to expire with weak controls by the government and these things are just dropped into the Caribbean, and we are consuming all of these food that is sometimes, compromised in many different ways. So part of that problem we have in the Caribbean with the junk food is connected to this policy position that our governments either let go by or don't implement any kind of policy that protects the people. So that's what I want to say relative to that particular thing.
Brother Emo?
Well, as the brother was rightly saying, food is a massive industry. We all need to eat, and the people who are generating huge profits, they are altering consistently how food is produced, changing the natural structure of foods, adding a lot of stuff to the foods that, make them look very pretty. And sometimes the prettier the food looks, sometimes the more unhealthy the food is. And they control the industry, right? And these are the types of food that are exported across the world that we find in our groceries across the world, that in a lot of cases, we should really try to avoid those types of food. So if we could minimize, certain basic things we need to buy, but if we could minimize buying those types of, food items and kind of hold on to the basic natural stuff that we know about, it could go a long way. But the power of the food industry, the control, the extent to which they control it, it puts a lot of people in a situation where, and then many people are removed from doing the basic planting. Let me go back to the backyard garden stuff, producing their own basic stuff. Many people even are prepared to buy from the market. Now, even though you're buying the same thing from the market, again, with the whole quest of profit, sometimes these items are fed with a lot of chemicals, a lot of chemicals. So sometimes you might be buying the right things in terms of what they are called, but they are just as dangerous. For example, you mightn't be eating meat and you're eating plant-based, but you're buying it, and how it is produced, it might even be more dangerous perhaps than the meat that you might have been eating. So it's a very tricky situation that, we have to fight against, but, we really have to look in, small ways, small steps that we could do stuff that could help us last a little longer, because, the food that we eat have a big, big connection, in terms of the health that we have and how best we could contribute to society.
I agree. At least during COVID, a number of people out of survival gone back to backyard gardens or planting that in bucket. But then a big part, I tell you, this capitalist, patriarchal, white supremacist, imperialist system where we have to fight for life. Then people actually study in a lab how to get people addicted to sugar. Brother, just the addiction, just everything got in sugar. So that really want addiction. That when we think about food, we need to think about eating nourishing food so that our bodies could be well. Remember, everything is interconnected, and this capitalist system have an ecosystem, right? So the hospital are in a business to heal, for make our money. So for make our money, we have to stay sick. So if we keep we sick, we have to get them food we're bad for them, make them have to up and down, and then depending on your class or access to money will determine if you want to get health care, if you are just dead, or if you are suffer till the death. So like it's like the assault on us mind, body, spirit, like they don't let up. So between the food, between the pollution of the environment, cause well, they have to have the solar system and whatever they need for have the majority of the European men who they make them decisions, and then the people look like we were to sell we out. What should they make decisions enough for we best interest? They're like, hell, the whole long human beings and other living beings on the earth at this rate, where they're just determined to destroy all beings. But next story, Brother Akko.
Well, before we move on, Sister Yaya, for our listening audience, I want people to understand this food system, whether it's the junk food we spoke about earlier, or the policy positions that the World Health Organization puts, is part of the capitalist system of control. Now, one of the things people must understand is that capitalism's primary objective is profit. And one of the ways to maximize profit is the human body. This is why they enslaved people in the first place. When they couldn't enslave people, then they moved to exploitation and labor, right? Now, there is a new, what you may call attempt or new strategies to, right, profit from the human body. So just what you were saying, and I think Brother Imo mentioned it. So they encourage you from a very early age to eat junk food, which means the medical profession is going to benefit from you. Okay, then they sell you certain kinds of clothes. So the human body is now seen only as a unit,
Commodity?
a, a unit of profit. So every single thing, from what you eat to what you wear to what you are fed in your mind, whether it's cable TV. And this is what we have to understand as people, that we have to find a way to disentangle. Even the World Cup, you see, so they use entertainment. In fact, Disney has a very important book on it called not Disney. A guy wrote a book on it called The Mouse That Rode, and it shows you how while Disney is entertaining your child, Mickey Mouse, they're also educating them about certain values. So we have to understand that the system economic model that we have, capitalism, its primary objective from the time it was developed in this part of the world was the exploitation of the human body, from chattel slavery to the exploitation of labor, and now various other forms of exploitation using health and psychology and so on. And that is something we have to understand. That's why Fidel Castro always say we have to imagine a different world, a world in which we are not just units of exploitation and units of profit.
Respect. Next story. Got what? 5 minutes?
Okay, so the next story is a story out of Trinidad. Hold on one second. It's a very important story because it's another issue that the Caribbean has seen an increasing problem with, and it has to do with the whole issue of the abuse of women, right? And it's an article that came out of the sister island of Tobago, and it has to do with some domestic violence and the response to it. And I know Imo as a person in psychology will have some other kinds of information on this, but the headline is "No Man Don't Want You," and this Tobago doctor breaks silence on the dangerous stigma facing single women. So the headline, the article begins: following the alleged domestic violence of killing of a Mount St. George resident, Nisha Roberts, a Tobago doctor is urging the public to rethink the way society treat women who are single. Goodwood resident Dr. Vern Allen, a physiotherapist, pediatrist, and wound care specialist, says Roberts' death led her to reflect on the reality many women quietly endure. In a heartfelt social media post, Dr. Allen said that she has also been called an old maid, had her sexuality questioned, and repeatedly heard the words, "No man don't want you," because she is single. She also recalled a church member warning her that doing men's work like building a table would make her undesirable to men. Dr. Allen believes these comments may seem harmless to some, but they reinforce the idea that a woman's value depends on having a husband or a man in her life. She argues that women are too often taught to fear being alone instead of recognizing when a relationship is unhealthy or unsafe. While stressing that every domestic violence case is different, she says Tobago needs to stop measuring a woman's success by her relationship status and start encouraging women to value themselves, protect their peace, and know that leaving a toxic relationship is never a failure. So this is the article, and I think it's important because we are seeing an increase in violence against women throughout the Caribbean. This is a particular case in Tobago. It's the same thing in Trinidad and so on. And I know in the past, Brother Imo and I have discussed this, and we have had webinars that mention this issue as a serious problem in the Caribbean. So I'll stop here.
Brother Imo?
Well, we have to, you know, how one view themselves is a very important position to understand clearly, but sometimes people need to be assisted in that regard, you know, because sometimes environments that people are growing, it runs counter to cultivating a healthy self-image, you know, and having a healthy self-image, you know, positive self-esteem, self-concept in terms of how you view yourself, that kind of stuff, you know. It needs to be inculcated and it needs to be nurtured. In the context of the article, you know, no one should believe, you know, base their value on just having a relationship for the sake of having a relationship. You need to value yourself as a worthy human being to start with. That is non-attached. If you want to say you're a child of God, a child of the Master, however you want to put it, who has been placed on this earth to make a certain contribution. But of course, sometimes a person might naturally be able to reconcile and be sure of that, you know. But I'm saying that, you know, how you view yourself, it will take some effort on your part. It will take effort on the part of the people who are nurturing you, you know. Because if you are in a negative environment, if you're in an environment where people are discouraging you, doubting your capacity, etc., you are laying the foundation to creating a very weak-minded person in the world. You follow? So if a person in a relationship scenario and they're basing their self-esteem on the fact that they have a relationship, or they're even basing their own growth on, you know, the support of another person, it could be tricky. Another person certainly can support you, but you of yourself must always concentrate on how best you can develop yourself so that you on your own could be a meaningful contributor to your own development, you know. So we need to, from young, you know, encourage people to see themselves in a certain way. But as I said, it will need constant effort, right? Constant effort in nurturing them in the right way. Because beside what you might try to do in the home, remember the influences on the outside, some of them are even more powerful than what you may be trying to do in your home. You can't underestimate the power of social media, the power of friends. As a matter of fact, the research has shown that, for example, adolescents are more readily influenced by their peers than even their parents, you know. But we really have to, you know, inculcate, you know, who are you? What does it mean? What are the metrics you use to measure your worth as a human being? You follow? It's not simply getting a good job, dressing in a certain way. I mean, presenting yourself in a certain way, speaking in a certain way, all will contribute. But, you know, the intrinsic way in which you could see yourself in terms of knowing that you are meaningful contributor to life with value and that nothing could come in your way that will make you feel otherwise. But remember, there are a lot of forces constantly trying to counteract that kind of position. So we who may call ourselves conscious, we have a responsibility to help as many young people as we can to get them that strength, that confidence to face the world. Because to face the world, you know, it is not an easy task, particularly for young people. So that's my statements for now.
Thanks, Brother Emo, Brother Akko. We're going to take a break. Stay tuned. We'll come right back.
Bad love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. This have to we we the fear. Nobody give it to nobody.
Today will be the inauguration of the backup water system. This will be able to assist the Pomona Water Board to expand, and if there's a breakdown with the current system, this can also be a backup. There are times when, especially in the dry season, when the current system might run low or might run dry, and that by itself creates a problem to fetch water. So we are hopeful that if this is not used as much right now, when the other system runs low, this will kick in.
We must ensure that people have access to clean, safe, potable water, just like everybody else across this country. What you see here today is an investment of over $160,000. It includes all the pipes that you see here. We also have other accessories. We have a backup generator. We have the solar system. And we also have a booster pump.
The most difficult part that hinders development is the access of water. We have reduced significantly the amount of people that were deprived from accessing a basic need such as water.
I am elated, very happy to be here, receiving the system. I think everybody would be very happy, very happy.
When we call it, we have no water, no nothing. That was an empty spot, but it's home now. They have a pipe right out there, so it's still okay, just that we had to reach up to get the water. I cannot wait to have it reach to our door.
Before our grid reached across Belize, it was built by generations of Belizeans committed to connecting communities and powering progress. Through the hands, the dedication, and the vision of our people, the grid grew with Belize. A nation built through strength and resilience, and a network built pole by pole. Today, that responsibility continues, strengthened by every hand that follows. Each generation building on the last and carrying forward a shared responsibility, serving communities, powering schools, hospitals, businesses, and homes, supporting a nation that continues to grow. Belize Electricity Limited, built to serve, serving Belize.
The biggest football event in the world is finally here, and Smart is giving you the chance to play and win. Before every match starts, predict who will win. The more predictions you make, the more chances you have to win. Get 1 point towards your total when you guess the winning team. Predict the exact score and earn up to 4 points. The top scorer at the conclusion of the World Cup wins the grand prize of $2,500 in cash. That's not all. Players get a chance to win weekly prizes. Plus, our quarter-final winner gets a watch party package. Play directly in the Smart app for just 50 cents per entry. Prediction starts June 1st to July 18, 2026. Don't just watch the World Cup. Play along and win with Smart. Smart, bringing people together.
At Atlantic Bank, your convenience is our priority. Our contact center is designed to enhance your banking experience. With a wide range of customer service options, you save time and effort. You can easily call in to block or unblock your debit and credit cards, perform account inquiries, and access detailed card information. Whether you need assistance with online banking, merchant support, or general inquiries, our team is ready to help. For added convenience, if all operators are busy, you can leave your number and an operator will return your call as soon as possible to ensure you receive the support you need. Depending on your transaction type, we may need to verify your identity through a set of security questions. And remember, Atlantic Bank will never request your username or password for Atlantic Online via phone call, text, or email, ensuring your personal information remains safe and secure. Our support team is available Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in both English and Spanish. Simply dial 223-1212. This is a dedicated line for our contact center. Atlantic Bank is committed to providing you with exceptional service and the tools you need to manage your finances conveniently and securely. Take full advantage of our easy-to-use contact center services today.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Every great job starts at Brothers Habet. With the best supplies and the right support, including free delivery on site, so you can focus on the job. Brothers Habet, working with contractors since 1983.
Guatemala, this a VTA, we are here. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because no Guatemala. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Ufa. Believe me, come from the Billy City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots.
Segment of Sunday Review. You know, I realized today, our slogan has always been making sense of the news. But as of January 2025, with Brother Akko as the co-host, I should be saying making sense of Caribbean news. But Akko here never hold me accountable. Making sense of Caribbean news. So our guest today is Brother Imo Bakari and Brother Akko. What are the next story?
So the next story is out of Cuba. And the headline is The Ocean Economy, Expanses and Imbalances, Industrial Pollution, Climate Change, Overfishing, and Biodiversity Loss. So it deals with the whole thing about the ocean and its impact. And I know this is the impact of overfishing and environmental factors on the ocean. And I know this is extremely important for the entire Caribbean, but particularly important for Belize. So the headline is, the article begins, the ocean-based economy continues to expand, bringing great benefits to humanity. However, its current patterns threaten the future prosperity of businesses and the health of the planet. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, global fisheries and aquaculture production is at an all-time high, but ensuring sustainable and equitable growth remains a significant challenge. In the report, The State of World Fisheries and Aquaculture 2026, the agency confirmed a new record of 235 million metric tons in 2024, of which 195 million metric tons came from aquatic animals, highlighting the importance of both activities in providing high-quality nutrients to a growing global population. At the same time, the sector provides abundant employment opportunities and significant business returns. However, specific policies and investments are needed to improve the availability, accessibility, and affordability of food in order to ensure its more widespread inclusion in diets, the FAO noted. Sectors such as aquaculture, tourism, and transportation are driving the growth of the ocean economy. Maritime services alone are valued at $1.44 trillion annually, according to data from the United Nations. Currently, maritime and coastal tourism accounts for 32% of global ocean trade, a figure equivalent to approximately $785,000 million annually. In the case of goods, trade volume is in the range of 4 billion. While businesses flourishes, marine life and the health of the oceans face increasing pressures stemming from global climate, ecosystem degradation, and pollution from industrial and human consumption. Against a backdrop of complex socioeconomic and geopolitical crises. Right? At the same time, environmental risks associated with offshore projects are on the rise, including wind farms, deep water oil installations, and submarine cables and pipelines that disrupt ecosystems far from the coast. Critical coastal ecosystems such as mangroves and seagrass beds continue to shrink, while hypoxics or dead zones where oxygen levels are so low that most marine life cannot survive now cover 4.5 million square kilometers, the UN review revealed. I will end here because I think it sort of captures the idea of what is happening in the ocean. Right? One last sentence. The ocean, its ecosystems, and the services it provides are deteriorating rapidly and at an accelerating pace. This is not an opinion. It is drawn from extensive scientific research. So this is it. The ocean economy and the consequences of pollution, overfishing, again tied to capitalist exploitation, economic models. So that's the say I am muted.
Brother Akko, I need you to explain to me what you just done read because I don't get it. I get the last sentence as far as the ocean economy and the exploitation, but I get last night. So, your own words, what you just don't say.
So what the article is saying is that there are stresses and strains on the ocean economy that if policy positions are not adjusted, it could have dire consequences for humanity based on the fact that we depend so much on the ocean for food, on the ocean for employment, through transport services, maritime services, tourism, and so on and so forth. So, and I'll just read one line again. While businesses flourish, marine life and the health of the ocean face increasing pressures stemming from climate change, ecosystem degradation, and pollution from industrial and human consumption against a backdrop of complex socioeconomic and geopolitical crisis. So in a nutshell, that covers it, right? There are also environmental risks with offshore projects like deep water oil installations and wind farms. Coastal systems such as mangroves and seagrass beds continue to shrink. And you've seen what is happening with the sargassum throughout the Caribbean. So I hope that gives you a better understanding of.
Thanks, Brother Akko. I definitely want to hear Brother Emo's response, especially as it relates to how this impact the lives of human beings on a daily basis, because a lot of marginalized communities live near coast, and that will live it to, like, fishers or the tourism industry. In a song like this sustainable, because I don't hear nothing globally where with the capitalist system, as you keep saying, that money over people. So what will happen to the people, Brother Emo?
Well, that is the fundamental thing. Wise we will hope and wish that there will be a change. I mean, realistically, I'm not seeing that change because, profit is the driving factor there, right? And the powerful, the rich, their concern is not the health of people, the prosperity of people, but their own prosperity. And even though it means destroying the source of that sustenance, because when you think of the ocean, it's $1 billion and $1 trillion industries, whether it's extraction of hydrocarbons, whether it's the tourism, whether it's fisheries, but their motivator is profit. So all of the natural ecosystems that are being destroyed, there is no existing evidence to suggest that that is slowing down anytime soon. That is going full speed ahead. So the people at the lower end who depend on these communities, over time, there might be no industries for them to survive off of because there is no let up in it. I know that in there are people, I think in Colombia some time ago, we had indigenous people standing up, and in Suriname, as they can. It doesn't mean that it will change the course of action, but I guess that's the least they could have done in terms of showing their disapproval, in terms of the lack of concern about the welfare of people, the welfare of the environment. So that's a very serious situation. For example, there are a lot of trawling that takes place off the waters of Trinidad. The people coming from as far as Korea and Taiwan. And recently, I got a little insight that it's a highly, highly lucrative industry. And they come, they spend months, and in some cases, they have, after they make their catch, they have the processing facilities to produce the end products and then export immediately. So what I'm saying is that people from another part of the world is coming right here off the waters of Trinidad and making millions and billions of dollars, and the average citizen doesn't have a clue that there is so much wealth there. And we're not talking about the oil now, oil and gas, we're talking about just mere fisheries that these people have been milking for the longest while. Highly, highly lucrative. So we're in a catch-22 situation. We would like it to change, but the power elite of the world, they have no regard about sustainable development. They will extract as much wealth as they can till, I guess, the source of the wealth no longer can sustain itself. So that's my contribution on that.
Well, I know, like, two brother do this work much longer than me. And we're seeing that the exploitation is not sustainable. The people who want to make the decision want dead out, and I guess they got some more in the pipeline we want to continue. Like, when I think that the end game, like they're going on another planet, because it is we're destroying the earth. So what that the end game, my brother Akka, brother Emo? Like, what that we keep the top about it again? What's around? What that the end game?
Look, Sister Yaya, capitalism is a very irrational, if you want to call it, system of economic organization. It's very irrational. And when you have at the center of your philosophy, economic philosophy, and your life philosophy, profit, because that's what it's all about. There is no end which you would not go to make profit unless you are stopped. And to stop these people, you have to organize differently. I mean, the ultimate, if you want to call it manifestation of this system and where it can go, is what has happened in our hemisphere, in which hundreds of millions of people were exterminated, doesn't exist anymore since the Columbus expedition. You look at the United States as a settler colony, exterminated millions of Native American people. So this is what people don't understand. It is a system and a philosophy that does not care, and so we need to understand that no, we are fed all kinds of what I call junk, especially through these religious indoctrinations, and not understanding that look, while there is a spiritual world in which we believe in another being, there's also a material world that we have to live in which food and water and so on is it need to be consumed. And the world was provided with enough for everyone. That's the reality. It's enough for everyone. But you have people call themselves capitalists who have organized to take more than their share and to deny others. And unless we change that system, the ultimate manifestation of that is what may happen to the indigenous people or the Native American. And the Caribbean seems to be on the chopping block now for this kind of what I call the second arrival of a Columbus expedition. So we have to look at these systems. And again, I always quote Fidel Castro. We have to imagine a different world in which poverty is not normalized, in which everything cannot be about profit, and where human beings are central to whatever decisions, economic or political decisions are made. Until we understand that as people, this is a road to disaster.
Thanks, Brother Akko. You want to add anything, Brother Emo?
No, not really. As I said before, eh, we who believe that we see it differently. I like to try to see things in a real way. We do what we can do where we are to contribute to that difference. For as long as we exist on this earth, we need to do what we could do to contribute to making that kind of difference. Because holy reigns of power, they wouldn't tell you, all right, take control now and do it. Imagine the world as you would like to see it. So it's a battle, it's a fight, and we have to play our part. We mustn't just be complainers about what should be, but we'll be active contributors as best as our situation will allow us to. We can't give up and throw our hands in the air, but we're dealing against a mighty system that is not letting up, in terms of the destruction that it is causing to humanity.
Thanks, Brother. Brother Akko, we got 4 minutes. We could squeeze in.
This is an important story here, again, out of Jamaica. It's called Strengthening Rural Development. And the headline is, concern was raised in the parliament, I think, of Jamaica. And so let me read the article. The concerns raised by Kenneth Russell need to be paid attention to and tangible solutions put in place on rural development in Jamaica. If you live in rural areas, you are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. Dr. Russell, the opposition spokesperson on rural development, said in his presentation to Parliament, rural development, according to him, is not central to the country's national policy. His observations highlighted gaps in access to basic services. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, 56% of rural households have safely managed drinking water compared with 87% in urban areas. Internet access is 76.8% compared with 86% in urban areas. In his presentation, Dr. Russell said computer ownership is 18.4% in rural Jamaica compared with 31.5% in urban areas. Things are worse off if you live in rural Jamaica, Russell said. Rural Jamaica is home to nearly half of the island's population, the source of much of the island's food production, a repository of its cultural heritage, and an important contributor to tourism, manufacturing, and natural resource management. The uneven development is leaving many rural communities with few opportunities, weaker infrastructure, and limited access to services than their urban counterparts. Addressing that imbalance demands focused policy discussions and strategic frameworks for transformation. It goes on, but I'll stop here because I fully understand this. I myself was born and continue to live in a rural area. And for example, I only get water every 2 weeks in my community. When in urban areas, people get water 24/7 and a host of other things. So this issue of rural development is a challenge, not just in Jamaica, it's in every Caribbean territory, in which urbanization has become so central that rural communities, where most of the resources are, like in the area I am in, for example, is the heart of the oil and gas sector in Trinidad, and yet you don't see that reflected in people's livelihood and people's economic opportunities.
Brother Akka, what do you mean? I'll ask Brother Emo to respond back after the break. We have another 2 minutes. Brother Akka, what do you mean when you say you get water every 2 weeks?
Yeah, water every 2 weeks.
You go and truck and bring water for you every 2 weeks?
In the pipeline. So everyone, if you want water, you must have a water tank. So when water comes, you fill up your water tanks, and you don't get water for 2 weeks after that. And right down from me is where BP and all the oil companies are, 14 miles on the road. That's our reality here, you know.
I know they get it. Only living in the rural area.
You don't get water in the taps, except every 2 weeks. So if you don't have tanks, you have to fill barrels. You understand? We get water every 2 weeks.
I hear you. And people seem to think, and that's what I said to some people, not because Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago have oil, mean that the people on the ground, they feel the benefits of being an oil-rich country or island. Anyways, we have to go to break. When we come back, we're going to get Brother Ema Bakari thoughts on the last word Brother Akka share it with. Stay tuned, break time.
El evento de fútbol más grande del mundo por fin llegó y Smart te invita a vivir toda la emoción del mundial. Antes de que empiece cada partido, predice quién se lleva la victoria. Entre más predicciones hagas, más oportunidades acumulas. Suma un punto cuando le aciertes al equipo ganador y si le atinas al marcador exacto, obtienes hasta 4 puntos. La persona con más puntos al terminar el mundial se lleva $2,500 en efectivo. Y eso no es todo. También habrá premios semanales durante toda la competencia. Además, el líder de los cuartos de final se lleva un paquete completo para armar su Watch Party. Participa directamente desde la app de Smart por solo 50 centavos por participación. Las predicciones estarán disponibles del 1 de junio al 18 de julio del 2026. No solo veas el mundial, vívelo con Smart. Smart, bring people together.
Formative years, children develop cognitive skills, social skills, emotional, language, and physical skills that serves as a foundation for lifelong learning, serves as a foundation for future success.
These investments create a nurturing environment that promotes school readiness and ensures that children in Santa Cruz and surrounding communities have access to quality early childhood education in a setting that is safe, welcoming, and developmentally appropriate.
The facility features a spacious classroom area, kitchenette, child-friendly sanitary facilities, dedicated amenities for teachers, and secure storage spaces to support effective teaching and learning.
This facility is a testament to the results achieved when government, development partners, and communities work together towards a shared vision, building a brighter future for the children of Belize.
En Atlantic Bank, tu comodidad es nuestra prioridad. Nuestro centro de contacto está diseñado para mejorar tu experiencia bancaria. Con una amplia gama de opciones de servicio al cliente, ahorras tiempo y esfuerzo. Puedes llamar fácilmente para bloquear o desbloquear tus tarjetas de débito y crédito, realizar consultas de cuentas y acceder a información detallada de tus tarjetas. Ya sea que necesites asistencia con la banca en línea, apoyo para comercios o consultas generales, nuestro equipo está listo para ayudarte. Para mayor comodidad, si todos los operadores están ocupados, puedes dejar tu número y un operador te devolverá la llamada lo antes posible para asegurarse de que recibas el apoyo que necesitas. Para mayor seguridad, es posible que necesitemos verificar tu identidad con un conjunto de preguntas sencillas. Recuerda, Atlantic Bank nunca solicitará tu nombre de tu usuario ni contraseña de Atlantic Online por llamada telefónica, mensaje de texto o correo electrónico, asegurando que tu información personal permanezca segura y protegida. Nuestro equipo de apoyo está disponible de lunes a viernes, de 8 a.m. a 6 p.m. en inglés y en español. Simplemente marca al 223-1212. Esta es la línea dedicada para nuestro centro de contacto. Atlantic Bank se compromete a brindarte un servicio excepcional y las herramientas que necesitas para administrar tus finanzas de manera conveniente y segura. Aprovecha al máximo nuestro servicio del centro de contacto.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
We've got the plumbing and electrical in our store. We've got the paints and the brush and light fixtures. That's for sure. We've got steel, cement, and tiles galore. And so much more. We've got everything in that store. We've got windows and doors just for you. In our store. We've got sheetrock, plywood, and hardwood too. That's for sure. Tools for gardening and the great outdoors. And so much more. We've got everything in that store. We've got variety. Everything. Quality. Everything. Quantity. Everything. And builders hardware variety. Everything. Quality. Everything. Quantity. Everything. And builders hardware. We've got the sinks and the tubs and cabinets. In our store. We've got the nuts and the bolts, so don't forget. And so much more. We've got service with a smile. That's for sure. We've got everything in that store. We've got variety. Everything. Quality. Everything. Quantity. Everything. And builders hardware variety. Everything. And quality. Everything. Quantity. Everything. And builders hardware. For builders who build with a passion and skill, go to builders hardware. No Guatemala, Flamino. This a VTA, we don't figure. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This a me, my name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it, so no. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Flamino. This a VTA, we don't fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time me, my name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it, so no. Tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people.
Feed wrong of Sunday Review, where we make sense of Caribbean news. Thanks to Brother Akko. And today's guest is Brother Emo Bakari. Brother Akam, you know me don't forget the story. But Brother Bakari, you know what about the story before we get on a break?
Yeah, it's talking about rural development there. Yeah?
Okay, go ahead. Yes, I remember now. Go ahead, Brother Bakari.
Right, so when we think of the Caribbean, a number of small islands, right? Jamaica, relatively speaking.
And we have some mainland countries like Belize, Guyana, Suriname.
Right. Well, Suriname, Guyana, really part of South America was considered Caribbean. They're huge, Guyana is 83,000 square miles, right? Guyana is a huge place, right? But Eastern Caribbean, Southern Caribbean, small islands, Jamaica in the north, relatively bigger, but it's a small island all the same, right? So if we talk about development, and we have to distinguish with rural, to me it indicates neglect, total neglect, because the islands are so small. If you have a developmental policy, it should focus on the entire island. But the reality is, rural communities are totally neglected throughout the Caribbean. Basic infrastructure is unattended to, So in other words, the basic ingredients to create an enabling environment to drive development, it's absent. So whatever potential is totally compromised. You have a lot of people in agricultural production. They have for years problem with access road, problem with access to water. You have a lot of attributes of the natural environment that are, ecotourism potential, but you don't have the enabling environment. You don't have a focus on, maximizing the economic potential, right? So I know Brother Mototo over the years had a project, heritage and the value of heritage. Over the last 2 years, I've been having some tours, educational tours, carrying people to different parts of the country for the educational part and also knowing your country part, right? So I'm saying that if you put the basic infrastructure in place, if you have policies that could activate the economic potential of the natural attributes of these communities, they can be self-sustaining, but they need focus and need attention, And to have such small islands and you have a challenge with rural development, I mean, it's a sinful thing, because they are people as everyone else, and they can do better. It's just the support that is required. I mean, people individually do stuff, but it needs a greater focus to really bring out the potential, because basic infrastructure and people should not just suffer to that extent, but that is the reality.
Is the majority of Trinidad and Tobago population in the urban or rural areas?
Urban areas. In fact, Trinidad has an extremely large rural. Most of our towns and populated areas are on the coast. It's on the coast. The capital, the second capital is on the coast. And even some of the, other towns are not too far from the coast. So the rest of the island is not developed, and poor infrastructure, roads, I mean, it's terrible. And this is after billions of dollars in oil and gas revenue. I mean, if we were a serious country, people should be, half of the political class should be in jail, to be honest with you, based on what the kind of damage they have done to Trinidad today.
Hi, only organize people and save the people. So you're up to the people for organizing at their best interests. Forget what they are to get just by being human beings. Next story, Brother Akko, thanks.
So the next story is out of St. Vincent. Very important piece here. It's the headline is Ministry of Education considering plan to help boys boost academic performance. The Ministry of Education is considering the introduction of a gender-targeted literacy and student engagement program as part of a broader strategy to address learning gaps and improve academic performance among students, particularly boys. Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Senator Laverne King, outlined the proposed initiatives while speaking in the House of Assembly on Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, as she addressed this year's Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment exams. results, and the ministry's plan to strengthen the education system. She said the ministry has been reviewing the performance of students and is developing targeted interventions to address areas of weaknesses, correct existing weak areas, and assist students. The 11.53 of the, I'm not sure what this is, of the Ministry of Education, who differ this year. 11.53, 11.53 of students who differ this year. The Ministry of Education is considering the following plan: gender targeted literacy and engagement program, implementing a localized boys education initiative, focusing on male centric literacy resources and interactive learning style to lift male median performance closer to their female peers. She explained that the initiative forms part of a wider effort to ensure that students receive the support needed to improve literacy outcomes while creating learning environments that better respond to the needs of both boys and girls. So I think this captures the essence of what has happened, that it is a problem throughout the Caribbean. I know in Trinidad and Tobago, it is a problem that boys are not doing as well as they ought to be in the education system. And additionally, you have a particular problem with young African males in Trinidad and Tobago, who are in most cases outside of the education system and are stigmatized as the ones most likely to commit crimes based on the statistics that exist. So this is something that is a Caribbean-wide problem. And therefore, while one country or one island may do something, then there has to be, in my opinion, a concerted effort regionally to address this issue.
Thanks, Brother Akko. Brother Bakari?
I would say, yes, targeted interventions are all good, but, oftentimes, the policymakers just prescribe what they believe should be done, and as Brother told, and that kind of stuff, right? But we really have to go down at the ground and, research, talk with educators, talk with people in the community. The affected persons who are being targeted, we have to talk with them, right? We have to understand their story. We have to interact with them because you're prescribing a program and you have no kind of interaction with them, We have to get to the root of it, and it'll take effort, it'll take, a lot of study to really get to the root. It'll take some time, but it's better we have those kinds of engagements, How many are the policies being developed for those type of individuals? The people developing the policies, if I had a minute of conversation with them. Because it's very important to talk with them. Yes, you can get teachers' perspectives, community perspective, but you need to get their perspective also. And I think with that kind of data, you'll be in a better position, right, to come up with a program. Because as we know, everybody has potential, everybody has talent. It may not be on the academic stream, but it might be in some other area where there could be a similar success, And it's better we develop programs that they will readily buy into, that will encourage them, they will be excited about it, and the potential for success will be higher. Those with that potential, of course, we could, invigorate it, because we have had some examples of persons who have been incarcerated and they went on to achieve at the tertiary level. We have had a few instances well of that. That potential was there, right? So if it is there, we bring it out. Whatever other potential exists, we identify it and we give it the necessary support so that they too will become a success, So we really have to try to move away from the labeling and really get down and really get to the source of it before we come up with programs. So that's my contribution to that.
Fair enough. We also know it's systemic in the Caribbean that political leaders, policymakers, not known for have meaningful people participation. They're known for have consultation. But now I find it to be unethical to ask anyone to participate in our process where before you ask them to participate, you, the organizers or organizer, never have one awareness campaign for a period of time. So people have knowledge besides their lived experiences so that engagement really substantive. And then the language when I talk to people, throw people right off. Now, this happened for generations. And a number of the people where they lead the conversation come from their families and that we people are not stranger. They know good delivery character what they're born into. But my gosh, when I talk about total disconnection from the truth, it's just like the same thing over and over. It gets exhausting. So if I really find have the courage, like Sister Danielle Archer would say. Remember, when I go listen to the Ether's Dispatch, we really have to be courageous for nurture different kind of beings, for challenge the system, and then be willing to make the sacrifice, because you can take sacrifice to create the other world where we want to say. Next door, Brother Akko, this might be the last one.
Okay, well, the last one, well, let me just read this one. I was hoping to read the one on Bermuda, but let me read this one on Venezuela. And it's very sad. Every time you read something on Venezuela, it's very sad to see what has happened, given what the propaganda that the U.S. Put out against Venezuela. So the headline is U.S. expands Venezuela. U.S. expands post-earthquake military footprint. The U.S. forces are conducting operations at Venezuela's main airport and aim to establish a command and control node in La Guaira port. United States Southern Command Commander General Francis Donovan has announced the deployment of some 2,000 military personnel in response to Venezuela's 24th June earthquakes. The U.S. military, the Department of War, and listen to the propaganda, it has roughly 2,000 teammates, soldiers, I should read, in the area in land, air, and sea around Venezuela. On Tuesday, Donovan told Reuters that the U.S. forces had 900 children and women in Venezuela territory. He claimed that the military presence aimed to improve logistics and that the U.S. forces will leave once they are done. He also expressed confidence that the mission would improve military-to-military relations with Venezuela. Washington activated its response force in the wake of the 7.2 double earthquake that caused widespread destruction in the Caribbean nation. Alongside specialized urban search and rescue team, the U.S. forces have also dispatched a significant contingent of Marines together with air and sea assets. So this is so peculiar that here it is. This is the same U.S. that accused Venezuela of drug trafficking and lack of democracy and all of these things. And went to free the Venezuelan people and now has Marines in the Venezuela, supposedly when Venezuela needed search and rescue operations. So that's what I have to say on that for the time being. It's very tragic.
Before I get Brother Emo comment on that story, Brother Akko, when I listen to you, I can't help but think of IT.
Yep.
They're the same thing.
Yep.
Brother Emo, your 2 cents.
The imperialist forces find ways and means, whether through natural means, we think of the earthquake, whether it's natural or unnatural, they find ways and means to achieve their prime objective, control and subjugation, and listening to this story there, it's an opportunity for them to, entrench themselves as they would have liked to from the onset. But the earthquake now is a nice premise to do the said things, because the end game with them is, directing the show. That's the end game. How it will unfold, well, it's left to be seen, but that's the end game. So that level of military presence that they're installing is not just, is certainly beyond just helping to restore a comfortable way of life in terms of the damage done by the earthquake. It's more than that, To me, that's how I see it,
Makes sense. Brother Akko, the Bermuda story, that short one?
Yeah, it's a short one. So
all right, make it quick.
It's a very interesting story. It's about water, right? Which is and systems that were invented. So the headline is Bermuda has no rivers or freshwater lakes, Yet a 400-year-old roof design supplies water to 65,000 people. Bermuda has no rivers, no freshwater lakes, and no natural springs. Yet it has supplied drinking water to its residents for more than 4 centuries. The British Overseas Territory in the North Atlantic relies on an ingenious rainwater harvesting system built into the roofs of nearly every home. Around 65,000 people depend on these distinctive white-stepped limestone roofs, which capture rainfall and channel it to underground storage tanks. Together, they form one of the world's oldest and most successful examples of decentralized water management, proving that centuries-old architecture can still solve one of humanity's most fundamental challenges. Unlike many islands, Bermuda has no permanent rivers, freshwater lakes, or natural springs. It is formed largely from porous limestone resting on the top of an ancient volcanic seamount. When rain falls, it quickly seeps through the rock instead of remaining on the surface. The fresh water eventually mixes with seawater beneath the island, making it unsuitable as a dependence of drinking water. This unique geology forced Bermuda's early settlers to find an alternative way to secure fresh water, which is the roof, ultimately leading to one of the island's most remarkable engineering innovations. So I will stop here. And I was telling you earlier about the fact that Trinidad has a water problem. We get rainfall on a regular basis, and we should not have had water problems in Trinidad, unlike other Caribbean countries. Here it is, Bermuda has a 400-year-old, which means possibly there's a slavery that was invented, and it serves the island in 2026. So that's the thing on Bermuda.
I never know that about Bermuda no have rivers and springs. You know that, brother Emo?
No, this is I was totally unaware, and it's so nice to hear a story like that because it just shows that the power of innovation, and we have many innovative people in the Caribbean. It's just a matter of engaging them, exciting them, and we can do a lot. So that is a nice piece of news. I was totally unaware of that.
And what I like about it is either indigenous or African in a concept, and it's still the work.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having conversations like these, thanks to Brother Akko, across borders and waterways, that we find out more about our sister and brother in the Caribbean and find out what we have in common. This is something what we don't have in common, but still works for them. I never want to go to that country before, but now I want to go there just second that. Besides, look for people. It's time to shut up the shop. Brother Emo, let me get your final thoughts for the morning.
Well, it wasn't a planned presence, but all the same, they say there's a higher forces, so I have to submit to the higher forces. I'm thankful to be here, and I guess I look forward to sometime in the future to be present again. It was a nice conversation. As I mentioned to you before, I would like to put it up at my channel.
So what kind of channel you got?
I deal with contemporary issues, things along the line that we're talking about, So you could check
channel name up on YouTube?
It's under my name. You could subscribe. It's under my name. Yeah.
On YouTube?
Yeah, right. So I definitely will put up this year because, this will be interesting to listen to and view. Yeah.
Big
so
thanks for that.
Yeah.
We appreciate your presence, your knowledge, your contribution. Brother Akko, final thoughts?
So, Sister, based on the news reports, we in the Caribbean, we have to look to shape a future that is of our own making. Right now, we have a future that is shaped by our politicians and outside forces. Venezuela is a classic example of that. And even what is happening in Trinidad with the new government and how it is responding to US imperialism. And this has been our history in the Caribbean. Our lives have been shaped not by our own perspectives and our own intellectual capacity. And we have to return to the famous slogan of Marichaud, the West Indies must be West Indian. We have to restore Caribbean ideas, Caribbean civilization in shaping the path forward.
Big thanks, Brother Akamatota, our co host, and Brother Imo Bakari, our guest today. Today is Sunday, July 12th. Next Sunday, we're going to have no Sunday review. Yes, Brother Akko, I guess, on the half. I'm traveling. I leave for Barbados tomorrow with representatives of two local organizations in Belize for a Legal Empowerment Fund Caribbean convening with people from over 22 Caribbean countries. We leave on Monday. I will come back the following Monday. Expect report back for sure on WV Morning Vibes. And give thanks to everybody. We listen to this program, we share the link, we follow up with we couldn't do it without the people, that's for sure. We want to thank our security guard, Shane Flowers. Here at XTV, the master chief operator was Harlan Wagner. On second floor is Creme Radio representative, Larry Guerra, known as Larry G. Sunday Review is usually live streamed on XTV Belize Facebook page, XTV Belize YouTube space, and simulcasted on Creme Radio. So until the Sunday, after next Sunday, keep good. And remember say, only organized people want to save the people. One love.
Love them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. This time we we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This time we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. Don't tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. Country bad, love them homeland. We'll never give it up to another nation. This time we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now.